Right to Jack Cafferty for what we call the Cafferty File. Jack.
That's what we call it. The U.S. war in Afghanistan, by some counts, is now the longest war in American history. 104 months since October 2001 and the start of a hugely popular mission in the aftermath of 9/11. That's longer than World War II. That's longer than Vietnam. It was 103 months in Vietnam from the passage of the Gulf and Tonkin Resolution to the withdrawal of the final forces from Saigon. It's worth noting that some insist that Vietnam is still the longer war because American servicemen were taking casualties there as early as 1961, which was long before the Gulf of Tonkin resolution. Never mind, though. At first, Afghanistan seemed like a cakewalk. Within months, the U.S. had driven the Taliban from the capital city of Kabul. Kandahar, the headquarters of the terrorist group, was in U.S. sights. In fact, on the one-year anniversary, then Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld said, quote, "The Taliban are gone, the Al-Qaeda are gone," unquote. But instead of finishing the job there in Afghanistan, we invaded Iraq, and now 9 years later, the Taliban seem more dangerous than ever. President Obama recently ordered an extra 30,000 troops into the war in Afghanistan. And of course, sadly, that means the deaths of U.S. service members continue. We passed 1,000 combat deaths in Afghanistan several weeks ago. Yesterday was the deadliest day for coalition forces in Afghanistan so far this year. But warfare has changed a lot, and the military death toll in Afghanistan is nowhere near the 58,000 U.S. troops who died in Vietnam or the 400,000 who lost their lives in World War II. Here's the question. Technically, the war in Afghanistan is now America's longest war. Has it been worth it? Go to CNN.com/Cafferty File. Post a comment on my blog. Wolf?
Good question, Jack. We'll see what our viewers think. Thank you. Joining us with the Cafferty File, Jack.
Question this hour, Wolf, is that technically the war in Afghanistan is now America's longest war. Has it been worth it? John writes from Cushing, Oklahoma, "We could be at war in Afghanistan for 100 years. The results will be the same. No military victory there without the dedication and full cooperation of the Afghan government and its so-called army. The place is a bottomless pit for American lives and money. I spent 17 months in Vietnam with the Army's 5th Special Forces, and I can tell you that winning hearts and minds is a very difficult thing to accomplish. We need to bring our troops home. The Taliban will never give up." Eric writes, "Worth it? Depends on your time frame. Was it worth it to oust the Taliban who harbored bin Laden? Yes. Is it worth it now? Afghanistan is governed by corrupt men who will pass on the government to more corrupt men. No one has ever subdued Afghanistan, and to think we'll change the tide of history this time around is naive. We're in a thankless situation and need to gracefully tip our hats and leave." Joe in Minnesota, "Many brave soldiers went to Afghanistan in order to take the fight to the enemy. They did this because Al-Qaeda attacked us. It's plain and simple. If we don't defend ourselves against what happened on 9/11, then when do we defend ourselves? My answer is yes." Phil in Washington writes, "Worth it? One American death negates being worth it. Why exactly are we still there? To chase the Taliban and Al-Qaeda around the mountains? To poison the poppy fields? Obviously, we haven't learned a lesson from the Russians. Get the hell out. Bring our brave troops home." Bill writes, "It's still too early to judge. I think there's still hope that some form of democracy will come to exist in Afghanistan." And Michael in New Mexico writes this, pardon me, "If you had a vested interest in opium and oil, it would be worth it. But if you believed it was about fighting terrorists, no, it's not worth it. And if you think it's about democracy and women's rights, then please pass whatever you're smoking." If you want to read more on this, you can go to my blog at CNN.com/Cafferty File. Wolf?
We'll see you in a few moments, Jack. Thank you.